Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. My email is the same and everything you see here is for sale. Reach out to me. I am Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase, pricing, and of course additional details. We buy what we sell and we sell what we buy. Always looking to build inventory. Sell us a watch, trade us a watch, sell us your entire collection. We pay cash, we pay fast, we walk you through the process, make it a no-brainer, and of course no upper limit on value paid. So reach out, T Mosso at thewatchbox.com to buy, trade, or sell. Jumping straight in 2018, Cartier redesigned the long-running Santos line. The first pilot's watch from 1904, originally designed for Alberto Santos-Dumont of Brazil. He was a dirigible pilot. This is not for fixed-wing aviation, at least not early in his career. 2019 brought us this, which is the blue dial variant. It's the basic 2018 Santos Large, but with a new partially luminescent blue metallic fade dial. You could see the hands are luminescent. The case is nice and slender at about 9.7 millimeters thick. It's only 47.5 millimeters lug to lug. And across the case, not including the crown guard and the crown, it is 37 millimeters. Beautifully decorated. See the sunburst metallic fade as it's lighter at the center, darker at the edge. We have these lovely metallized individual radially arrayed Roman numerals. Of course, the watch features the Smart Link system for rapid sizing of the bracelet. All you do is you push a little trigger on the underside of the removable link, and just like that, you can take the bracelet apart without any tools. I'll demonstrate how this works. Also, look at how flush these little triggers are. It's a marvel of engineering, and of course you can't pull the bar all the way out because they know if they let you do that, you would lose it, so it's retained. Then all you do is you pop a link out, put them back together, easy as pie. There's also the quick switch system, which is how I'm able to pull the bracelet right off the watch, just like that. And the watch comes with an accessory strap in blue. Taking a quick look at the case back, not a whole lot to see, but inside Cartier MC 1847, it is a thin, rugged, automatic movement made by Cartier, and the watch, water resistant to 100 meters, is also anti-magnetic to 1200 Gauss, so robust in every way, a true sports watch. Alberto Santos-Dumont would be proud, and of course you can see there's a little tiered design with the famed bolt-fixed bezel, as has been featured on every major iteration of the Santos since the original, either in skeuomorphic or in true assembly form. These are functional bolts that really do hold the bezel to the case with a little cabochon in crystal on the edge. Now going way up market with our blue dial integrated bracelet sports watches. Here we have a release from 2021 by Vacheron. This is the Overseas Ultra Thin Perpetual calendar, and it's exactly what the name implies. Forgive my fingerprints, some of them are a little bit more persistent than others, but the watch extraordinarily just 8.4 millimeters thick, 41.5 millimeters in diameter in white gold. It's remarkably well loomed, as you can see, plenty of luminescence at night. We also have a dial that features moon phase and a perpetual calendar, able to deal with irregular length months and leap years. Like the Cartier, this one has a quick release bracelet system, only this one comes with two additional straps, one blue in rubber, one blue in leather. Look through the case back, we have a modification of the 1120. This is the 1120/3, originally based on the JLC 920 that was designed for Patek, Vacheron, and AP. This movement has only ever been used by those three companies. Today, you can see beautifully finished to Geneva hallmark standards. You can see the Poinçon de Genève on the balance cock, but also on the case itself, as since 2012, it has been a full watch standard, not just a standard for movement finish. You can see the bevels are bright and broad. They're lighting up on the edge of the bridges. The stripes are particularly distinct across the tops of the bridges. There's engine turning in several sizes on the base plate. Black polished screw heads with chamfer slots and circumference. And we have a free-sprung Gyromax style balance, automatic winding, 40-hour power reserve, a quadruple finished, hand-engraved 22-karat compass rose style winding mass. And take a look at this bracelet. Every single individual link removable, and they even include intermediate sized links in case you're in between size. But they also include a sleeved 1.5 millimeter micro adjust on each side of the clasp, so you can really fine tune the fit of this watch. And look at the intricacy of the hand finish on the bracelet, from the rolled bevel of the side to the sharp polished facets inside the individual links. The attention to detail on this watch is surpassing. That is one of the best options in the integrated bracelet sports watch category, but so is the Czapek Antarctique, launched in 2020. Let me give you a better sense of both of these watches on the wrist. In fact, that would probably be a great way to demonstrate them. They're not that big. 41.5 might sound large with the Vacheron, but in fact, it's a relatively easy thing to accommodate, because here's the thing about the ultra slim Generation 3 Vacherons, whether it's this reference 4300 or the no date Ultra Slim that came out in 2016, they feature bracelets that pull straight down out of the lug. See that 90-degree bend down from the horizontal of the case? You don't get that on the other Generation 3 Overseas, so these were a lot smaller than the rated size. Easy to wear, super flat, super flush, sliding beneath the cuff, and fairly constrained across the wrist. You can see how the bracelet flares out on each side. Because it is a perfectly supple and flexible bracelet, that means the lugs are well inboard of the edge of my wrist, and this down the barrel shot really tells the tale best. Plus, with the cuff shot, you see it'll slide underneath any kind of a dress cuff. The Czapek, and this is the Czapek Antarctique Terre Adelie secret alloy model, 99 pieces, launched in 2020. It's 40.5 millimeters in diameter. It is 11.2 millimeters thick as I measure it. You can see the watch wears nicely. I could recommend it for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference, and that's true of the Vacheron you just saw. Now, the watch has a bracelet that maybe isn't as intricately finished as the Vacheron, but it's robustly built. You can see these intermediate links with a polished C shape, designed to be a Czapek C. And then we have an intermediate sized link. Actually, they do things a little bit differently with their intermediate sized link. Instead of making it 3/4 the size or half the size, they actually make it a little bit bigger than the primary link. So if you're in between sizes, add or remove one of these. Now, we do have a quick release system on this watch. It's a little bit more fiddly than the one on the Vacheron, but if you have bigger nails than I do, you can turn a little dial on the bottom of the bracelet. And I'll attempt to do that here. Maybe I have more nail on my other hand. There we go. You turn this little dial on the bottom of the bracelet, and then it comes right off. And the watch does come with a rubber accessory strap, so if you want to put it on the rubber accessory strap, you can easily do so. The case hollows are quite attractive on both sides. Screw down crown, 120-meter water resistance. We have lots of lume, no shortage whatsoever. The dial is the namesake of the secret alloy. Again, Czapek Antarctique is the model, Terre Adelie is the series within Antarctique, and this is the secret alloy with a brushed and satinated dial. It's made of a combination of silver, palladium, gold, and platinum. That's 55% of this dial is precious metal. And then you can see we have lovely applique indices. We have a red varnished seconds hand. This does feature a number of refinements, including hacking seconds and a quick set date. And the font chosen for the date is quite attractive. Now, on the reverse side, you can see a movement, the SXH05, developed for Czapek by an all-star team of Emmanuel Boucher and Daniel Martinez. And Boucher built the Harry Winston Opus 12, so you know exactly what you're getting into here. We have a ceramic-bearing platinum micro rotor, 5-position chronometer-style adjustment. We have a barrel that provides 56-hour power reserve. Then we have finger bridges for each individual wheel in the train, leading down to a free-sprung balance on a full balance bridge and a 4 hertz beat rate. So this is a very rugged setup. You can also see several different types of finishes. We have recessed media blasted bridge profiles, and then around the edge you have this raised and satinated channel, that raised relief giving way to a traditional mirrored bevel on the edge of each one of these bridges. And then you can see that the center bridge is made of steel. It's black polished on its top, it's mirror beveled on its side, and then it has 2 external interior angles and then 4 internal exterior angles, or interior angles, I should say, where the angles meet in a sharp inward crease. Now, you can also see there are exterior angles externally where bevels come to a point. It is beautifully made. And again, 99 pieces in this series, robustly water resistant, with one of the most interesting movements in this class. Let me put this watch bracelet back on here. It's a little bit difficult to do, again, when, like me, you are constantly manicuring your nails for videos. But just like that, bracelet's back on. A spectacular watch, and one that's really helped Czapek to arrive as a star in the independent watchmaking scene. I realize some of you might be looking for a wrist shot of the Santos So I will do my best to put the Santos back together again. Maybe I can demonstrate. Again, it helps to have more nail than I have when doing this, because what you really need to be able to do is pop that little bar back in. I have a perfect tool for this job. And then you pop the bracelet back in, pop it all open, throw it on the wrist. Super slick, real comfortable, flat as well. Even better when it's on the strap, in my opinion. Ask anyone about their favorite era of Roger Dubuis, and they'll tell you it was the 90s. Ask them what their favorite model series was, and they'll tell you it was the first series, Sympathie. Ask them which Sympathie model was their favorite. They'll say the Bi-Retrograde Perpetual calendar. And here it is, very similar to the watch that Roger Dubuis himself actually wore. A 28-piece limited edition in rose gold. This is the Sympathie 37 Bi-Retrograde Perpetual calendar. It has the bezel, inner bezel, crystal, and dial, all with the same undulating form. Later on, to make it more cheaply, they would simply use a round crystal. This is the one you want. You can also see that the dial is simply packed with features. A moon phase, Bi-Retrograde, day and date perpetual calendar. You can also see Bulletin d'Observatoire, that is because it is a Besançon certified French observatory chronometer. And on the reverse side, you can see what they call caliber 57. It's a Longines L990 modified and finished to receive Geneva Hallmark certification, adjusted in 5 positions, twin barrels, 44-hour power reserve, and then on the top, we have the complication module originally created by Roger Dubuis and Jean-Marc Viderecht, later of Agenor, for the original 1989 Harry Winston High Horology watch, the Accenter Perpetual calendar. Well, this is Dubuis' module now on his own watch, and the L990 is an all-time great used by everyone from Dubuis to Breguet to Vianney Halter as a fine base for complications. You can see the beveling's outstanding, the stripes are remarkably detailed, even engine turning, black polished swan's neck adjustment and stud holder, as well as black polished screws. Now the watch also has welded on lugs. This is a very old school, laborious way to make a case with screw fixed strap. You can see screws and bars here, much more secure than spring bar setup. Throwing it on my wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference. The strap is still very stiff. It'll be a whole lot easier to wear on a small wrist once the strap breaks in, but you can see absolutely no problem fitting this watch on a small wrist. I would say you need to think of it as maybe a 40 to 41 millimeter round watch to get an accurate sense of how it wears. It is quite thin and it will slide underneath the cuff. In 2021, Patek Philippe launched the latest in a series of watches dating back to the 1980s, 3919. This is the 6119 in white gold, 39 millimeters in diameter. It's 8.6 millimeters thick in white gold. So we have the hobnail double row. We have a dial with a wonderful stainless steel-like vertical satination and brushing, white gold cabochon outboard of white gold faceted dart style indices, faceted Dauphine hands at center. And of course, because this is a modern Patek Philippe watch, let's fire it up. The latest series of Patek Philippe manufacture movements have included a feature that was long requested by collectors, and that, of course, is hacking or stop seconds, so you can stop the seconds hand when you wish. Flip it all over. The movement, now properly sized for the case. A next-generation Patek caliber. Of course, this is the 31 with a 31 millimeter diameter, and you can see, you know this, actually says 30 here, 3255. So this one is a 30 millimeter diameter, 2 barrels, 1, 2. Each one has its own separate bridge. There's a lovely finger train style profile with a center bridge arcing down towards the escapement, 65 hours of power reserve, free sprung, 6-position adjustment, Gyromax style balance, anti-magnetic Spiromax hairspring, and that 65-hour reserve with hacking seconds. All these features together, including the Patek Philippe seal, means the watch will run no worse than -3 plus 2 seconds per 24 hours. And you can see that the beveling is to a very high grade on the edge of the bridges. Take a look right there. You can see it lighting up in profile. You can also see that all of the jewel and screw sinks have been internally beveled. The stripes have been deliberately designed to have a large shoulder or a broad stroke across the bridges. You can see they're not super narrow. Those are nice broad stripes. We have engine turning on the base plate in several sizes, solarization on the two barrels so you can barely see it, and then satination on the wheels running down to the escapement. The watch comes with a pin buckle. It's easy to wear. It looks like it might be larger than 39, but once you see it on the wrist, you agree, yeah, that's pretty much 39 that wears as a 39. And because it is a dress watch, it'll slide easily underneath any kind of a sleeve. I believe you could wear this watch on a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference. We love our independence here at Watchbox. Yes, we're independent, but we also like independents, plural, meaning independent proprietors, small manufacturers, and Grönefeld of Oldenzaal in the Netherlands is exactly that. Back in 2016, the horological brothers Tim and Bart Grönefeld launched the 1941 Remontoire, and this is it. Now, only 188 movements were made. There were many handsets, dials, and different types of case metal used. So within that 188, there are a lot of smaller micro runs and micro variants, and this is one of them, with a sterling silver dial that you can see has a frosted silver gray base with applied faceted mirror polished indices, fired steel, alpha style hands. We'll fire this one up in the literal sense so you can see it in operation. Over at 9 o'clock, there's an inertial governor that slows down the jump of energy from the barrel to the Remontoire d'égalité constant force device. This one does feature a hacking seconds function. The case is rose gold, and the 1941 case style is beautifully detailed. The dial is sterling silver, and then on the reverse side, you can see this movement includes stainless steel bridges. Here's the Remontoire mechanism. Here's a tri-pallet locking lever that engages and disengages once every 8 seconds to transfer energy from the barrel to the Remontoire, and then the Remontoire and its spring set drive the escapement directly. You can see there's no visible drive between the Remontoire and the escape wheel. It's because the drive is underneath the dial to open up the case back. You can see it's free sprung, and it actually has an overcoil hairspring. It has a ratchet wheel that has been beautifully solarized with a ratchet wheel core that has been dished and black polished. You can see that the bridges all in stainless steel, some of them media blasted, some of them bright polished. All of them have a formidable bevel on their edge. The Grönefelds really showing their Audemars Piguet Royal heritage with this watch. They worked at APRP for a long time, and they absorbed the culture of uncompromising detail. You can even see that the bridges are triple finished with beveling on the edge, a raised satin channel around their border, and media blasting inside. It's got a 35-hour power reserve, but for 35 hours, thanks to the Remontoire, the watch will keep perfectly consistent time. Constant force to the escapement, constant amplitude of the balance, and this is a watch that really is quite easy to wear, being 39.5 millimeters in diameter and only 47 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip. Easy to wear, comfortable, handsome, and of course this watch was sold out as of the tail end of 2019. I was at Watch Time New York in, I guess it was October of 2019, and the last of the Grönefeld Remontoire watches were being sold there. So this watch was in production from 2016 when it won the GPHG Men's Watch Prize to 2019 when it was done. And of course, no new orders are being accepted today for any Grönefeld watches. So if you like this one, give us a call. We've probably got a better supply than they do. In 2013, François-Paul Journe launched his second Perpetual calendar. The Quantième Perpetual was a watch that included all the lessons he learned on the previous limited edition Octa Perpetual. Now, this watch is the 42 millimeter version, and it has the 2020 option dial. So from 2020 forward, you could get a dial that included precious metal borders for the apertures on the calendar and the elimination of the dial center football, as it's sometimes called it, which is a polished steel bezel that winds up sort of crowding the dial. So here you get this more upscale, open, airy look in the option 42 millimeter case. The dial is made of sterling silver. The hands, the apertures, and the numerals are all rose gold. Now, it's a perpetual calendar that, in my opinion, in good taste, does without a moon phase because it makes the dial a lot less crowded. You get big, easy-to-read indications, and Journe continues to migrate toward more center dial hands. And he simply explains this in terms of getting older, and it's easier for him to see the bigger handsets. Now, we do have a quick set system you can see for the day right there, and then also for the date, which is a double digit. if you want to change the month, Journe wanted the watch to be settable without any kind of special tools. There's a little adjuster that hides underneath the lug at 1 o'clock. And you push it flush, completely invisible. No dimples on the case flank, and no temptation to set your watch using a ballpoint pen. And he wanted to do away with that. Now, the power reserve is 120 hours chronometric, 160 hours absolute. So what will happen is the watch will keep best time for 120 hours. You're encouraged to make sure it doesn't fall below that, but it will run for 160 before it actually stops. You can see we have a sterling silver dial with red gold garnishing, a red gold case, and then a red gold movement, 22 karat rotor cut on a rose lathe for this grand orge or barleycorn pattern, and then the remainder 18 karat gold bridges and plates with anglage, circular Côte de Genève, mirror polished screws, engine turning in 2 sizes on the base plate, and satination for the wheels. It's a large watch. It's 51 millimeters from lug to lug, so when you throw it on your wrist, you do feel the size of it. I can wear it just fine, but I think that if your wrist is my size or larger, this is your size. If your wrist is smaller, you want to go with the 40 millimeter version of this watch, and yes, we have that too, so give me a ring. tmosso at thewatchbox.com. 2015's Patek Philippe of the Year was the 5370p split-second chronograph, and 5 years later, Patek launched this, the equally platinum 41mm 5370p011, which now has a blue Grönefeld enamel dial. And what a dial. It's not easy to do blue or black or dark green. Dark enamel dials show all of the imperfection in the material, which tends to wind up with an orange peel type texture. That's just the nature of enameling. Patek has now reached a point where it can enamel dark dials without any imperfections or waves or ripples on the surface of the material itself. Now, the biggest surprise with this watch is that the hands are loomed. Other than that, though, you can see this is the best type stuff from Patek, as we have a split-second chronograph system with coaxial split-second pusher. We've got a concave bezel. You can see there's a diamond between the lugs at 6 o'clock, reminding you that this is a platinum Patek Philippe. The case flanks are evacuated. You can see that the raised edges are polished, and then the recess of the case flank has been satinated. Although the case is platinum, these little cabochons at the end, these are actually white gold. Now, rolling around to the dial side again, you're going to ask, does it have hacking seconds? Yes, it does, right there. And then the movement, 29535. This is a twin column wheel, split second, manual wind chronograph caliber. So one column wheel is hidden underneath this maze of springs. You can see the pincer system at center. For the split second, it will stop that seconds hand, and there's a decoupler so that it won't drag and slow down the movement while it's stopped. You can also see the primary column wheel has been black polished and capped, a traditional Geneva technique that's decorative today, but once upon a time it was thought that by capping the column wheel, you could prevent the horns of the levers and the clutch from popping out of the crenellated top. So like most elements of fine finish, it has functional origins. Look at all the black polish. As I tilt this through the light, look how many surfaces turn black. Those are all mirror finished with a zinc plate or diamond paste. Free sprung, 6-position balance, 65-hour power reserve, hand bent over coil hairspring. We have a rack and a pawl for the instantaneous minute jumper, and then we have a combination of engine turning and stripes polishing. And look at all the bevels you'll find on this movement. You'll see them on both the steel parts and the brass parts. This is why I say you should not count Patek out. When people talk about Lange now being the reference point in mass-produced high-luxury watches, I say you've got to look at the high-end Patek Philippe watches, because oftentimes they exceed what you'll see on the more entry-level watches. Like, for example, let's say a 5960. This is a completely different type of watch. Lateral clutch, metal hairspring. These types of watches tend to be built by the more advanced Patek Philippe watchmakers because they require more experience and more attention on a manual basis. A lot of these elements, like the lateral clutch, need to be finely tuned to have enough pressure that the wheels will mesh, but not so much that it'll cause drag. Whereas a vertical clutch, you just put the pieces together and it works. This takes more skill. Finally, a 2017 version of a watch launched in 2009. My favorite dive watch. This is the blue titanium Blancpain 50 Fathoms 5015. So blue bezel, blue dial, brushed titanium case. This is the one that I would want to wear. Now here's the thing. Yes, 45 millimeter diameter, but from lug to lug, 50.6 millimeters. Strap, sailcloth, almost indestructible, held by screws and bars, super secure, model-specific pin buckle, a bezel. That's just a pleasure to play with. It feels as good as it sounds. 120 click with a cambered sapphire cap that protects the lume on the bezel and protects the watch from scratches. Because the bezel is fully capped by sapphire, the whole bezel can be lumed without any danger that the lume might be knocked off by abrasion. Numerals, indices, and hands, all in white gold to resist tarnish and oxidation. The fully calibrated bezel is easier to read in the dark as a timing reference. The watch features a more muted look thanks to the brushed titanium than the full polished steel model, so this is the one I'd prefer on that basis. The movement caliber 1315, outstanding bevels. These are the best bevels I've seen on a mass-produced watch. The snailing across the bridge is a nice alternative to Côte de Genève on this very modern watch and movement. You can see the rotor has been triple finished, media blasted, satinated, and then on the edge of the rotor, polished with a bevel. We have solarization on that ratchet wheel right there. A free-sprung balance adjusted in 6 positions, shock-resistant with a recessed bolt aerodynamic balance and an anti-magnetic silicone hairspring. We have hacking seconds, a quick set date, 3 mainspring barrels in series for a super flat 5-day torque curve and a 5-day power reserve. And I think you'll agree once you see it on my wrist that this watch is actually a match made in heaven. This will be the dive watch I buy myself when I've achieved something meaningful and I deserve a new watch. And you can see on my wrist, this actually fits fine. It's not super broad, it's comfortable, and being all sapphire and titanium, it's very light. We are now the 1916 company. However, I am still Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com, so please email me for purchase and pricing details.